With 2024 finally over, and with me seeing the first film of, or at least my first film of 2025 very soon, I thought it was time to look at the 10 films in 2025 that I am very much looking forward to and hope don't suck. And we will also, in another video, be getting to the 10 films that I can almost guarantee will be absolute trash, or at least movies that I personally am dreading watching. But they're ones I'm gonna have to watch anyway, and I think you can guess a few of the movies that'll be on that list, and ones that'll be very high on that list. So without further ado, let's start off with Captain America: Brave New World. I know that all the anti-MCU people are bitching and whining about this film, but I don't care. It looks pretty good. Do I think it's going to be as good as the first three? No, not really, but the Captain America trilogy is probably one of the best and most consistent film trilogies we've ever gotten, especially with Winter Soldier and Civil War being probably some of the most perfectly made comic book films of all time. Yes, this does have a new director and I think a new writer as well, but the trailers have made this movie look like it could be a lot of fun, and that's all I'm hoping out of this film. Next one up is Thunderbolts, and again, this one I was skeptical of for a while, because, well, we all saw what happened with DC and Suicide Squad. But again, the trailers make this movie look like it's going to be a lot of fun. It looks like it's going to be much better than Suicide Squad, and really, that's all you can ask out of a movie about a bunch of supervillains coming together to fight a bigger threat. I honestly don't know if Sentry's actually going to be the villain of this, but that would be pretty awesome. And again, the movie just looks like a ton of fun. And again, that's all I ask out of Marvel. I don't want another She-Hulk. I don't want another The Marvels. I want another Deadpool and Wolverine. So, let's complete the MCU trifecta with Fantastic Four: First Steps. And literally all this movie has to do is be the best Fantastic Four film we've gotten up to this point, which is a bar low enough to trip over, because we've had 4 Fantastic Four movies up to this point. The 94 one tried its best to stay true to its comic origins, but suffered from an incredibly low budget. The 2000s movies are fine enough for what they are, but even for the mid-2000s, they were very underwhelming comic book films. And keep in mind that the first movie came out the same year as Elektra, and the second one came out the same year as Ghost Rider and Spider-Man 3. So that's all you need to know. And then the 2015 film was a disaster in every single scenario in which you look at it. So all this movie has to do is be better than those films. I'm still not a huge fan of the Pedro Pascal casting as Reed Richards, but the rest of the casting I thought is perfectly fine. And we haven't gotten a trailer yet, but I'm pretty sure that the first trailer we're going to get is going to be during the Super Bowl next month, so we'll just have to wait and see. Next up is a movie called The King of Kings, which is basically just a Jesus movie. That's what it is. It's a movie about Jesus' life. And not only that, it's made from Angel Studios, who's made plenty of good faith-based films. They're the studio that gave us Sound of Freedom. They also gave us City of Dreams last year and Homestead, and as well as several other films that I haven't seen. So I know they can do this stuff well, and this has a stacked cast, including Pierce Brosnan, Oscar Isaac, a couple others I can't remember. I don't know why Mark Hamill's in this movie, but I guess he was really that desperate for a paycheck, because I'm pretty sure he's pretty anti-Christian. But nevertheless, again, a stacked cast, a studio that's known for doing faith-based movies, so I trust them to handle this movie pretty well. Next up is A24's Death of a Unicorn, and that title sounds ridiculous, I know. It sounds like a My Little Pony knockoff, but this movie actually looks pretty cool. I remember looking through the films and seeing the synopsis of this film and being pretty intrigued. I went and watched the trailer, and now I'm very intrigued about this film. And again, this is another one that has a very stacked cast. Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega, Hugh Grant, and Will Poulter. This movie, I don't usually see A24 movies. I actually don't think I've seen any of them outside The Iron Claw, and even then I didn't review that movie because I saw it way after it came out. But this one looks like it'll be pretty awesome, so I'm holding out hope that it doesn't shit the bed. Next one up is called Mercy with Chris Pratt. And the reason I'm looking forward to this film is I just like the concept. It's a very simple concept of a detective who's accused of committing a crime and now has to prove his innocence. This is a plot we've seen time and time again. And I think this is also going to Netflix, which does make me a little worried, but Chris Pratt is usually a pretty good lead. He's also going to be in The Electric State, which comes out in March. And that movie doesn't look that great, and he's wearing one of the worst wigs I've ever seen in my life. So I don't have particular high hopes for that one, even though it does have the Russo brothers and the two writers of Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame at the helm. But this one, I think, could be a decent action film if it's done right. Next up is Tron Ares, and I know what you're thinking. A Disney movie on here? What sort of wizardry is this? Well, here's the thing. I legitimately really like most of the Tron franchise. Ironically, the one I like the least is the first movie from 1982. It's not a bad movie by any means, but I remember being kind of bored by it and checking my watch a lot, thinking, good God, how long is this movie? Even though it's not that long of a film. But the second movie, Tron Legacy, not only is it getting a critical reevaluation nowadays, 15 years later, but I actually really freaking enjoyed that movie when I saw it. And Tron Uprising, the TV show that came 1 year after it, I believe, the one-season show that got canceled due to low ratings, which sucks because the show was really fucking good, and I would love for that show to get a revival if this movie does well. Because it's like, if Disney Plus brought back X-Men 97, why not bring back Tron Uprising? It seems like a lot of people want them to. So, and Jared Leto, he gets a bad rep for good reason, but in the last couple years, he's had some decent performances with Morbius and Haunted Mansion, so as long as he keeps his notice me acting in check, I think we'll be fine. Next one up is kind of here by default, and that's Five Nights at Freddy's 2, because there aren't a crapload of 2025 movies that I'm looking forward to because, well, I don't trust movies nowadays. I don't trust and assume they're going to be good. But I did legitimately like the first one. I don't really like the game franchise, mostly because it's turned from a small indie horror game that's decent into this big conglomerate franchise where it's no longer focused on being a horror series, and it's more focused on how many stupid cartoon animatronics can we shove into each one of these games. And considering my brother is like absolutely obsessed with this franchise, and I had to hear him talk about it all throughout winter break, I'm getting a little irritated with this franchise, but I'm hoping it's good. Next one up is a movie you probably haven't heard of because there hasn't been a lot that's come out about it. It's called The Thursday Murder Club. And really, the reason I'm kind of interested in this film is the same reason I was originally interested in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and that's because of director Chris Columbus, who's directed films I really like. I really like the first two Harry Potters, I like the first Percy Jackson. He's directed, written, and Adventures in Babysitting was another one he directed, and he's written films like Goonies, Gremlins, and Young Sherlock Holmes. And even though he's had his duds, it seems like usually when he has a dud, like Pixels, he was just a director for hire at that point, so I don't really blame him for it. Pixels was entirely on Adam Sandler. But the concept still seems interesting, and the cast seems pretty good, and again, I trust Columbus can make a decent film out of this, even though, again, it's going straight to Netflix, which is the one thing that has me worried. Finally, is a film called A Working Man, starring Jason Statham and David Harbour, which already is awesome in and of itself, but it's similar to The Beekeeper that came out last year, which was decent. It's even got the same director who unfortunately directed Suicide Squad, David Ayer. But The Beekeeper was decent, and I liked the concept for this film, and the screenplay was written by freaking Sylvester Stallone, so who knows, this might actually be way better than The Beekeeper. This one, it would probably go above The Thursday Murder Club, and maybe even Five Nights at Freddy's 2 if I were doing this in order, which I'm really not. So, yeah. That's the 10 films I am anticipating for 2025. Will all of these be good? Probably not. There's a couple on here I am worried about, like Thursday Murder Club, A Working Man can end up being just another generic crappy action movie, and Tron Ares could end up being more Disney slop that sinks this franchise even further than it already was after the second movie underperformed and the show bombed, even though they were both really good. So, you never know with this, and for all I know, Thunderbolts could suck. I don't think it will, but it could, and Fantastic Four could be yet another misstep for that franchise, though again, I don't think it will be. So, that's all I got for this. What are the films you guys are anticipating for 2025? Are there any that I didn't have on this list? I know some people are going to put Superman on here, but I'm not looking forward to that. So, that's all I got, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.